With this effect of the long-term drought, the water drained very fast. The whole entire pond dried. How much Arapaima we find? Dead one. I would say that we lose a lot. Large Arapaima we lost here. This is a very, very big loss we have.
I am so happy that you have allowed me to play a small role in helping to get the message out. And I know you'll carry it home and you know, you're just going to continue to build on the amazing efforts you guys have done so far. So with that in mind, I just want us to briefly go over our journey. And I want us to like sort of just reminisce on the experiences because I think like my perspectives of what I went through might be totally different from like what you guys remember, you know? Because to me, it was such a crazy moment. And before we get in, I will reference one part where you know, obviously I ran behind y'all everywhere you went with the camera. Like I was in the pond with you and filming, and then I remember one time Arapaima just an 8-foot Arapaima would just swim right through my legs, and I jumped out of my skin, you know, and that was. But looking back, that's just a lifetime experience, you know, to be that close and to be so in it. And I remember there was like a baby there in the mix as well. So it's so cool to see how kids start so young, being so comfortable with their environment, you know. But anyway, so. I obviously named the documentary Releasing the Giants, Saving Guyana's Arapaima. I wanted your comments on that, actually. What do you think about the name? Releasing the Giants.
First place, the people who went in with us, especially the females, right? Especially females, they see this. They said they're really excited when they see this. Wow, they said, even my daughter says, Daddy, it's a giants we were with. And all those things, you know, it's
because
really
there were
excited.
never female handling Arapaimas before. But this was like first time ever.
And they were almost the star of the show in the whole journey. Like they were amazing, you know. I was so impressed. And not to say women can't do this, by the way, but traditionally you don't see many women just embracing that role, you know, because it's so dangerous as well, which we'll talk about in a second. So it's Releasing the Giants. Obviously, people know Arapaima is the largest freshwater fish in the world. However, animal enthusiast friend of mine had to remind me, said, Alex, tell your audience it's the largest scaled freshwater fish in the world. We just say freshwater fish because we want to be the best, but it's actually the scaled. I think the largest freshwater fish, I believe, is the sturgeon, but they're not scaled like the Arapaima. So just to put that out there for the viewers. So I mean, as you can see, look at that huge. How huge that Arapaima is. And I remember Titus, by the way, what an amazing guy. He was like, you know, in it, him and Kenny. Gotta give a shout out to them.
Thanks to King William Adventure and Canico Lodge.
Absolutely. So why is this so important? Why is saving Arapaima important? So obviously it's part of catch and release sport fishing. Now this is a tourism product that a few lodges have offered, and you guys are starting to now take more seriously as you said, a follow-up to your conservation efforts. It's a sustainable means of economic activity. And, you know, you attract visitors from all over the world. To catch and release an Arapaima is such a once-in-a-lifetime experience for someone across oceans. You know, you get a lot of people from Japan coming in here.
What I want to say to Alex is that I understand over in Brazil they are farmed,
Yes.
and people go to those sports fishing there for them too, but they does not really have the experience that I have over in Guyana, because these are really wild.
Yeah,
You understand? They're
absolutely.
not farmed or set where
Yeah.
people feed them and so on. They're just in their natural habitat,
Exactly.
and that is why it's very important. Yeah.
And you have to go and look for them in the creeks and the lakes. It's part of the whole
Yeah.
experience, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So it's again, it's like it's a bigger part of tourism. It's this like, oh, we're going not, I don't want to say hunting because you don't kill them, but we're seeking them out
Yeah.
in all the corners of the Amazon, you know, to be able to catch them, hold them, and then gently put them back, into the river or the pond. So I just want to sort of say that's the importance of, you know, it's one of the many reasons we save these fish, because indigenous communities, utilize this as an ecotourism product, as they should. And Rewa does a great job, and I'm sure you guys are going to eventually get there as well. So Apoteri Village. A lot of people don't know about Apoteri Village, but we're going to let them know today what it's about. My thing with Apoteri, first time I was at Apoteri Village, the one thing that stood out to me was the location.
Okay.
Because, you know, many people don't know that it sort of sits on the junction of the Rupununi and Essequibo River. And if you launch a drone, there's Apoteri Village, first of all, on the map, just so
Yeah.
people know it's kind of almost in the middle of Guyana, in a way. Apoteri is here on the junction, but when you launch a drone above, you can actually see these two rivers flowing into one another. And it looks like almost like you're pouring milk in coffee, you know?
Correct.
Because Rupununi River is like kind of like a more milky color, and then the Essequibo is a darker. So I was like, when the first time I was there in 2018, or I think it's 18, I was just like amazed. I've never seen that before, you know. It's just a crazy sight to see from above, which you might not get to appreciate when you're in the river. But so, you know, we had an extended drought. I thought this picture as well of the river was so unique because you're seeing the sandbanks exposed, and it's so symbolic in a way because it looked like Arapaima scale, you know. So we had this extended drought, and what was crazy, Nigel and Campbell, is that I remember the boat ride to get to you guys at Apoteri from Kurapakari crossing. It almost felt to me that I could have got out the boat and walked all the way to Apoteri in the river. The water was that low. The only reason we even needed the boat was the 1-2 rapids you had to cross, which were very shallow but strong, and the fact that we had so much equipment, you know. But other than that, you could literally hike down the river, and that just goes to show how low the water levels were.
Yeah, and this is the toughest time to get to Apoteri is when the water really low.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Sure.
takes wee hours sometimes. It
Yeah.
takes 8 to 12 hours.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we were on the river the first time, you know, when we made our first stop up until night, and it felt very dangerous too because it started to rain and so, and it was just a crazy experience. But part of the adventure, I gotta say. So this is just a picture of Campbell. This is you walking through the forest, and I remember early in the conversation we were talking about how dry and brown it got. But this is what is crazy to me is that, you know, look at how dry that is.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that for miles and miles, you know, every time we walk in, and it's crunch, crunch, crunch throughout the forest. You could see trees burnt up and charred, and it's very concerning, actually. This is another picture. This is a fire that's still going. You could see the smoke here
Yeah.
coming out. So, you know, just interesting to be miles and miles and miles away from any community
Based on the
and smell
picture that we're
smoke.
looking at there, you know, that's an assessment of how we're going to get the fishes out there. We're looking for a way or a route, you know, to cut a trail.
Yeah.
To see how you could get the fish out there. That's what it is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually going to talk about that too, because I do talk about, this is a presentation I made, by the way, when I was seeking funding and support for this. I had to go and
Okay.
present this to everybody
Okay.
and explain tell them my experiences and why they should support this documentary. So this is one of the many ponds you find inside the forest. Again, another symbolism picture here this kind of vaguely is Arapaima outline.
Is it?
Yeah.
What's the name of this pond? You guys remember?
Turtle pond.
Turtle Pond?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Turtle Pond. And as you can see, the pond here is drying up. And again, deep within the forest. Luckily, this was close enough to the river where I guess we didn't risk killing the Arapaimas, but something we also have to consider.
Yeah.
Usually, if a pond is too far from the river, do you just, and it's drying up and Arapaimas are stranded, do you just, I guess you have to let it go, no?
Actually, what we do is that we have to assess, looking at the level of the water, look at the color of the water, and then looking at the distance between the pond and the near site. If it is a oxbow lake or a closer lake, a bigger lake, or the river itself, then you have to consider the density of the forest. Look at if it is uphill, downhill,
Yeah.
or if it's too, bushy, and so on. So once we have that consideration, we would be able to say, okay, this is very simple to rescue, all right? So, but if it is like difficult, we might take a chance, 50-50 chance. But once we could take one fish from a far point to the river and it survive, that ensure us that
Indicates it's a pretty good,
yes,
yeah.
it's gonna be something good for us.
A lot of people don't falsely assume that the pond to the river is a flat surface. You just go and as we found out, it's not.
Yeah.
Not only do you have to go up the inclines, but
Right.
it's getting over the fallen trees and all this stuff that you can't clear.
Yeah.
You mentioned looking at the color of the lake. What does that tell you?
Actually, you could naturally see when the water is getting real stagnant.
Okay.
Where fishes can, sometimes you find a lot of fine fish dying at the edge of the river, which means that, it's getting bad.
Yeah.
It will not be lasting for longer periods then.
Understood.
You understand?
The
Understood.
oxygen is very getting low. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. So yeah, just for comparison, so we have the same lake here, and then we have the river that we would release the fish in.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you can see the distance you have to travel. It really gives you an idea, and it goes to show again the river is also itself drying up.
Yeah.
In comparison to the lake. So Campbell, this is you. I don't know. Have you seen this picture before online? No?
no.
So this is one I took.
I think.
This is what I took of you at the
No,
second lake.
I saw the one that they were measuring the fish.
Yeah.
Himself and somebody else.
Him and
I think that was
Lawrence.
trimmed. Yeah, that's trimmed on the thing.
yeah.
Yeah, on the trailer.
So this one here was 6+ feet, and allegedly about 400 pounds. So I was very impressed with this because it's hard to imagine a jaguar pulling this from the water up onto the land, and such a tragic loss there. I thought it was a very telling picture. And then obviously to see it decomposing and nature having its way with it.
Yeah.
But I guess that's just part of the circle of life. So going back to the trail, it's interesting to see how the team works with like clearing trail and utilizing that from the pond to the river. How everybody just picks up a cutlass and starts clearing very quickly, as a matter of fact. And to be able to do this without a chainsaw, to me, is very impressive. I mean, it's just a big team effort, and I think obviously comes with a lot of experience,
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the process of starting out with when once you reach the pond and once the mission of rescuing starts, everybody sort of goes in and this is the part that really always impressed me, is that you sort of move like a military unit. Everybody just come and march around the fish. You sort of enclose it, and then that's where the wrestling begins. And as you can see here, the star of the show, everybody's with a stick sort of poking and feeling. Is this sort of like to you a dangerous experience? Like, because you kind of don't know what's inside there, what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. That is like, forestry is like testing out what's in there. Sometimes you can feel the difference between an Arapaima and a black caiman in there. Because if you touch an Arapaima, it would move away, right? But when you touch a black caiman, it won't move.
Really?
No. he would just sit there. So you know exactly this is not an Arapaima, right? Once you confirm that, right, and you feel this fish that is moving, exactly that's an Arapaima. Cool. And the other thing about it is that you just locate the fish with a stick. You naturally could feel the scales, you know, that kind of sharp you touch.
Yeah.
And once you touch that, well, I was doing that for, you know, just locate the fish and then go for it and feel it. And once we could touch that fish and get hold of it, you know, I just leave it to somebody else to go around and try to catch a fish. I mean, get a fish into the bag, whatsoever.
Yeah. And, you know, this is a great picture of, you know, once you get the fish, once you locate it, is just the start of what you have to do. It's such a tedious and dangerous process. People don't understand how strong an Arapaima is, where when it flicks its tail, it could essentially knock you out, you know? So you kind of, there's a way you have to hold it that, you know, sort of put yourself at less risk. And not to mention, you have to do this to a point where it becomes tired enough to be subdued, you know? Have you guys ever had any like experiences where people were injured, you know, in ponds or got hit by an Arapaima? Yeah.
Yeah, we do have, because, you know, the skulls of the Arapaima is not something that is soft. I think 2 times our guys get knocked. So they were like, you know, swollen up, could not have walked properly the other morning. Yeah.
Even though, even one, I think one of the clients get hit, burst his forehead.
Oh, really?
So they are very dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's why we have guides to handle them. Experienced guides,
Yeah, definitely. This is you, Nigel. This is you and Lawrence here again. You know, and it's funny because you kind of just you just seeing something pulling a person above the water, and you don't really get to see it until it surfaces. You know.
Yeah.
Great pictures. I'm gonna send you these for prosperity, so you could remember the good times.
One of the things we on this trip experienced though, these guys from Fairview never handle an Arapaima that are not caught without lines.
Yeah.
So this was like a learning experience for them,
exactly.
because they keep telling us, you know, some of them just stand up and watch how we handle these Arapaimas, you know, and they say we never handle an Arapaima, but when they see us doing this, you know, they start to build courage.
Yeah.
And say, oh, we have to do it too. So everybody just, you know, going.
You could see them getting the confidence.
Good. And in the ponds where there are many Arapaimas, it's like everyone to an Arapaima. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd just like to take this moment to shout out Paraiba Lodge and Navin, as well as the guys Lawrence and Mark and a few others that I can't remember off the top of my head. But without them, this trip would not have been possible. And also thank you guys for having that information sharing. You know, it's so important to share this information across communities, so you know these efforts can expand beyond just the village. You know. So once, you know, the Arapaima is sort of, there's a wrestle and they get tired, is where, you know, we then have to put them into the sling to carry them through the forest. Now, this in itself is another issue because, you know, it requires multiple people, and you need more than just the people actually holding. You need about 4 other people running behind to switch out, because it's such a tiring experience.
Yes.
You know, what is sort of this effort like for you to get it out of the pond into the forest to the river?
I want to bring back this point. Looking at the distance, now you have to start calculating the minutes on the way, because these fishes would probably take 15 minutes before they could take. Let's say for the giants, it would take 15 to 20 minutes and so on, or even half an hour to take another gulp of air, you know. So you have to look at the size of the Arapaima to say, okay, if it's a juvenile and adult, a baby one would be, small. He would probably come back like every 5 minutes or so to take air, you know. So you have to be very quick. So why we have other people waiting, you know, to take over the load when another is tired, is because of time.
So the pace doesn't slow down.
Yes, we try to beat the time so that the fish will arrive to the other side, you know, lucky enough to, get on its way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. This is an overhead shot just to show you, you know, what it looks like from that angle. It's a beautiful shot actually, because everybody started gearing up and the they're chilling, and then also you kind of have to keep it in water, which adds to the weight. You know, water is so heavy.
Yeah. You see, when we get it from the water, we go to the land, we just kind of drain the water out quickly, right? So before it's too heavy,
Yeah,
so that we just take the weights of the Arapaima alone.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as we were talking about before, you know, it's not a flat route from pond to river. You could see Mark here walking up a hill,
Yeah.
me here walking over logs behind. You know, this is just to also put down the camera for a minute and actually take part in the exercise to understand what that's like is, you know, it was very mind opening for me, because this
Yeah.
is not something you just started
And
going
on
through.
on this picture also, I would say thinking over certain things. Like we had this 2 logs, right? We have 4-person here, 4-person here. I was thinking, no, we can use 1 log.
Yeah.
You know, so we could just put this bag together and sling it so that we have more people on hand.
It's
You know,
more efficient.
yeah. So when you look there, it's like it's just 4-person, 2 in front and 2 at the back. So we go like another 100 meters, somebody take over again. So it get more simplified, like you know,
Yeah.
so we begin to invent certain things there.
Yeah, and I guess this is the kind of thing you have to. It's like almost like the innovative ways you got to come up with to make the process manageable. You know, I love that. And then obviously, you know, we get it back to the river, and then there's that resuscitation period. You got the ladies. Of course, ladies are better at resuscitating than men. You know, they're more gentle and caring. But you got these women here getting the fish. And Nigel, if you could talk to us briefly about what that process is. So, you know, the Arapaima has to take a few breaths before we can let it go, right?
Yes. Well, actually, you know, based on our training when we did catch and release training, you know, the Arapaimas, you know, when they're very weak at some point in time. You have to ensure that the fish retain the right energy, and you have to ensure that, you know, they have the right breaths before that you could release them. Because if you release the fish without coming and gulp for air, let's say about 3 times, right? And you release it, the fish would be unable again to come up and take air because it is still weak.
Right.
You know, so what we do is babysit it for a while. We say babysit, we hold the fish up,
On the surface.
not directly on the surface. You know, we just above the surface, and give it a couple of minutes. Let's say 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the energy that it has, right? So when the fish come up the first time, actually most of them, as soon as we reach into the riverside, you know, to release them, the first one come up. We know that it's okay. So we keep it for a while to see if it can come back up. If it's too tired to come up, it will, you would see that it drag itself and it will be unable to come back to the surface, right? At that time, you would know you would help the fish to come up and gulp the air and go down, back and settle for a while. Again, you have to wait. You just don't release it until when you feel that the fish have its own energy enough to come up, you know, and take that air. If it's not 3 or 4 air, right? You give it that moment, and then when you feel that the fish is moving strongly by itself, you know that it's energized back.
Yeah.
So it get back it's to its normal strength. And then you go, and then you look for it after a while also. When you release it, you know, you sit there and look because it'll be able to come up
Yeah.
again by itself. Once you see it do that, you already know that it's back to normal. You know, it's okay, everything is fine. At some point in time also, you gotta look when you release the fish or when it go down, and if you see bubbles coming at a certain spot, that means that fish is there, it's dying. So you have to get back into the water, dive for it, try to get it back to the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of way more complicated than you think. You know, you can't just throw it
Yeah.
in the water and expect it to revive itself. And it's such a big fish to carry all that weight. You know,
Yeah.
it definitely is a lot of pressure. These are just a few clips of different fishes we've moved. It's amazing to be in the water with them. Is such an experience, you know. But yeah, and this is obviously a group picture of all of us at the end. But that's pretty much it. Guys, I just want to say, you know, thank you so much for doing this. This is a phenomenal initiative you guys are doing, I just want to reiterate how grateful I am to play a part, a very small part, but hopefully a very consequential part in moving this forward and helping you. And I can't wait for us to premiere this film this weekend to the whole of Guyana and the whole of the world. I think a lot of good things are going to happen from it. And I just want to say I wish you all the best moving forward. And hopefully we can work together soon, sometime in the future.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, I just want to say special thanks to all the people that is viewing this morning. I want to say special thanks to Reel Guyana also, that you have make a tremendous contribution in promoting our community. Not only that, but resources, that can make a difference and contribute towards development into our communities. We take it something that is very important to our lives. And, I just want to say thanks for hosting us again and having us here this morning. Thank you all.
Absolutely.
How far will a small village go to protect their sacred resource for future generations? Catch the new documentary, Releasing the Giants, Saving Guyana's Endangered Arapaima. Premiering September 22nd on all Reel Guyana platforms.